Hello there everyone, welcome to a Second Thoughts overview of Wurrzag of the Greenskins. I went through the initial turns and checked a bit of how the perfection plays out, its strengths, weaknesses. In the end I'll give you some army compositions that I would try in my own campaign so that you can use or adapt to your own playstyle. This is an overview, but not an in-depth guide. Without further, let's play with Wurrzag, the Great Green Prophet. So for our short victory condition, we need to win any of Wurzag's quest battles, and to also maintain controls, basically of the Badland provinces, these ones right here. It's very simple. And then to occupy, loot, raise, or sack 30 different settlements. Now, achieving this, it's quite a short campaign actually. Achieving this will give you +3 recruit rank to all armies, always quite effective to ensure your units are better when they jump into battle. Long campaign victory, so things change. So achieve the short victory condition to occupy, loot, raise, or sack 75 different settlements and then destroy a bunch of factions. I'll summarize them for you. It's the minor greenskin factions. So there's always the odd chance that some of these minor greenskin factions will still be alive by that time. For the most part, I'd say that around maybe 70 turns or something like that, to guarantee that there's maybe like one in the map, but there's always the possibility that one survives. So the good deal here is that the good advantage that you have is that all of these can be confederate very easily. So all that you need to find if they're still alive is actually to beat their specific lord in battle, and that's it. You'll get the confederate battle, the faction, they're destroyed, and you achieve the long victory. So it's very simple actually. Now it's also much more of a sandbox experience because you can go anywhere really with this. Now, the reward is global recruitment capacity +2, so very good because actually the Greenskins will never run out of slots for their recruitment, so they're likely one of the fastest to recruit full armies, for instance, which is really great. It helps them. Now, Wurrzag is the Prophet of Renown. So basically, his Wog has the chance of containing savage orcs. The enemy hero action success chance is -50%, which is always great actually. So those pesky enemy heroes don't have don't create trouble to you. And every single savage orc unit has a charge bonuses +25. Note, not +25%. +25. So your infantry units, for instance, are crazy good. Yeah, always remember that. In terms of climate, it's rather good, actually, especially because of the mountains. Mountains always make it so much better because it's one of the most influential climate types. And most abundant, of course, as well. So the mountains are there, and staying the old world is quite a nice idea. You know, you don't have a lot of places where you can't go to. Just to the north, as you can see here, this whole area is not really that pleasant to you. It's uninhabitable. So if you're going for a full domination, perhaps controlling over the south first, and then going from the case wasteland, starting on this area and then going over this area, because this is the difficult part to take, but still a great campaign to try out domination with, certainly. So, and the bonuses, of course, the issues that you may have specifically is the casualty replenishment. Actually, of course, you don't get a lot of income from there, but it's not that big of a deal. The biggest issue is really the casualty replenishment because you have to focus with the attrition as well. That's what creates issues. So your starting province is a 4-settlement province. It's quite easily defended actually. It will prove an amazing military producer site as well, which is awesome. Not a lot of factions actually start out in such a province, which is excellent. So typical expansion is of course to control the Badlands, this area between this sort of sea, this gulf, and the mountains here, and then to expand either into the south or to the north. This area here quite provides a nice choke point, so not a lot. It's easily defensible, so one advice that I can give you is maybe to try and control this area and then go further into the south, dominate everything, and only then try to go over to the top. Okay, but still, you may wish to control all of this area, and make like a round circle around your initial starting province. Up to you. The main premise is always be wary of the climate, because this enters into temperate climate, which it is unpleasant to you, so be wary of that. So in terms of diplomacy, you're part of the evil tide, so allies will rather be few Mostly other greenskins, Skaven, maybe Vampire Coasts, Vampire Counts, perhaps. This will happen for the most part since you'll be fighting their enemies and building up good relations with them. So since, you know, the typical greenskins that you see here, they are actually my friends currently, but I could avoid going with non-aggression pacts with them just to ensure that I could actually attack them and get their territory. I just wanted to be a buffer before I get engaged into the dwarves, for instance, while I'll try to take out Scarbrand, for example. So that sort of idea between should I get an aggression pact or pacts with the other greenskins, or should I just fight them out, it's always to your choice, really. Now, for the most part, enemies will be other greenskins, dwarfs, empire, tomb kings, chaos, etc. So don't count too many allies around for sure, but there's a few. For the most part, you should try outposts with Skaven for some of their missile units, perhaps, or outposts with the Vampire Coast, for instance, as well for their missile troops. Those will always fit well and nicely into your compositions. So one of the mechanics that you get, and you can find it pretty early on, of course, with your first enemy, is the Confederation mechanic. Once you defeat the leader of a specific minor faction of the Greenskins, then you can choose to confederate them, or you can choose to release them and giving some diplomatic relations, or to kill them permanently and giving a debuff to the diplomatic relations. All in all, Confederation is nearly always the better option, better choice. So the walk is another great mechanic, actually. Basically, keep fighting until the bar above fills in. While this is ongoing, you get some nice debuffs or some nice buffs, actually, as you can see there. More growth, more control, recruitment cost, leadership. It's always nice to have this bar filled in as most as you can. And then you can actually click there to call a walk with that reputation. So once you start the walk, you can select a target, such as I selected here. And you have this UI to help you select a target. Different types of enemies will give you different rewards. Okay, so for instance, if I decide to fight against the boys, to give me faction-wide leadership and recruitment cost reduction. If I want to fight the stunties, it gives me weapon strength and construction cost reduction. If I go against the demons, Winds of Magic Power Reserve and Spell Resistance. So as you can see, you have to choose. I can get charge bonus and control. So in regards to what I select and what I get, then I'll get a banner that I'll put here, a trophy that will give me some bonuses, some nice bonuses. And you notice the number there, that's the strength of the enemy. So if it is quite a strength, let me show you here. If it is like a faction that is 30 and below, I just get a big trophy. But from 11 to 30, the bigger trophy, and then the biggest if the faction is ranked 1 to 10. What does this mean? Is the actual bonus that you get. So you'll get even more speed and even more income from post-battle loot, and even more faction-wide power reserve with Windows of Magic if I get to this guy, for instance. Of course, he's 37. I don't have anything below 30 here. Oh yeah, I have. If I would go against Thorgrim, for instance, you know, I'll just select this as the target, okay? It will declare war, of course. And if I select this, basically in a minute, I'll get a little bit a larger construction cost reduction and weapon strength. At this point, I really don't think I should go in terms of the strategy overall, so I'm just going to select this one and show you. As soon as we get to select, you can dedicate to Mork or you can dedicate to Gork. Basically, the difference is that this one gives missile strength to all armies, and this one gives weapon strength to all armies. For the most part, I'm using melee, so I'm going to go for melee. And now, while it is on the way, what do we get, actually? We get a secondary army that follows the first army. And this is the strength of the full effect of the war. You get a second army for this. Now, the next one, you do have a unique currency which is called the scrap. You gain this via battles, you gain this via raiding, etc., technology, etc. And then you use it to upgrade your units. And you have some options to upgrade them. Like for instance, this unit will get leadership plus 15, or will get bonuses as large, or will give missile resistance, because you do have the Idol of Gork for your units. For instance, I'm going to select the Idol of Gork. I want to be ready when they have some missiles. Corn, for instance, doesn't have, but I'll use it nevertheless, just to showcase how it works. And then you can see that little icon there, which is great. It showcases how it works and how you can get the advantage for these units. It is great to allow you some nice compositions, as the units can vary drastically, really. So it's really cool, a nice mechanic in itself, so that you can improve from that. Now, another one is the Regiments of Renown, and these are the specific ones. These are some specific Regiments of Renown that you can do after you complete a successful walk. And if it is the biggest trophy, you'll get those. If it is just a bigger trophy, you'll get these Armored Squig Hoppers. So these are all better versions in itself of the typical one, but you also get some feral hydras, some feral wyverns, which is really cool because you don't have any flyers. So the addition of having at least a couple of monsters, it's really nice. So yeah, that's about it in terms of mechanics. So very focused. I really love them. I hope they never change those. Typically, maybe just small adaptations, because they feel really good for the armies themselves. So in terms of edicts, they're fairly simple but quite effective. You have a construction cost and income from all buildings, more of an income-based one. You do have recruitment costs and local recruitment capacity. This is kind of average, because you'll see later on that it's not really that necessary, really. And then we have the control, growth, corruption. So basically, if you're having troubles in the province, you can always pop this one out, and it will be really good. So yeah, definitely not a lot of them. It's kind of sad that they don't have anything like different, let's say, but yeah, it's still very effective, very unproblematic as well. Now, we also have the army stances. Let me speak a little bit about them. So instead of the basic encamp, you actually have a raiding camp. It allows scrap per turn, replenishment, immunity to attrition, and it costs 0 movement points. It's perfect at any moment. Just be aware that you'll get issues when raiding your own region too. Then we have the underway. You already know about this. The tactical notion stance, mechanic in itself. It helps particularly giving you that you start this location where you do have some swamps nearby, so that you can travel around. So yeah, it's always good. You can also travel across the sea with this, which is really great. It allows you to, get some jump attacks, some surprise attacks there. It's always nice. And then we have the typical ambush. So 25% move cost. Overall, most of the time you'll be encamping for that replenishment and attrition, and you need to ambush, of course, when it's tactically profitable. And of course, you do have forced march as well. So, as always with the Greenskins, not something that you spot immediately, but you actually obtain additional recruitment capacity with each settlement that you have. Which means that if on a 4-settlement province, you get a lot of recruitment slots, which is amazing. So for the Wurrzag faction, it's really great that he has immediately a tier 4-settlement province from the start. In addition to that, Savage Orcs have quite an additional advantage. Their unique building gives you frontline units with the Savage Orcs, big guns, and it gives you missile units with the Savage Orc Arrow Boys, and the Savage Orc Boar Boy big guns. I hate this name. So cavalry units that you can get, these are anti-large. So very thematic, and in addition, it gives you so much flexibility while you upgrade or improve other military, or just focus on your economy instead. Tier 3 units are rather lacking overall, not as much with the addition of the Savage ones, so you kind of get better there. But Tier 4 is where you get the best. So you get the Arachno Spider, one of the best anti-large units. You get the Black Orcs, actually, wrong one. The Black Orcs, which is crazy good unit. We also have the Doom Diver Catapults, and then Tier 5 you do have the Rogue Idols, which is always nice. So Tier 4, 5, of course you get some good options, but Tier 3 are rather lacking. With the Wurrzag faction, they're not as much. That's for certain, because they do get the Savage Orcs fully to Tier 3. So military, you need 8 buildings, but 2 of them you can actually build for the most part in a minor settlement, which is what I've done here, as you can see there. Now, infrastructure. It has a nice control building and even hero capacity for goblin big bosses. It also gives you less corruption, so it's good to control your province. It goes up to tier 4, which is always excellent as well. Then you have a growth and casualty replenishment rate. You have an income building, and then a campaign movement range, income from post-battle loot faction-wide, note this, income from raiding all armies as well, and income from sacking and looting settlements, all characters. So basically, the more that you get from this, the more exponential you gain from raiding, from sacking. So that's really cool. Now, let's speak about research. It's always very nice. It's very powerful as well. You can see that it does cost some scrap, so you gotta be careful with that, or sometimes some gold. Not only do you buff your low quality troops, but also your high quality troops, but there are also this. There's 2 lords that you can have here that play out rather differently. So they're very good to get specific army compositions for even more variety. So it's really cool. I like it. It's not unfeasible that you get to the end as well. So it's quite often that by the time that you're in the end game, you actually already achieved it, or you're very close. So it's really good, very well balanced tech tree. So as always, skills are divided into Lord-specific, magic or combat. You also have the red line or army, or blue line or campaign skills. Now Wurrzag focuses on his magic and on savage orcs. That is where your focus should go forth. One of the most important ones is actually the Fury of the Prophet, because it strips enemies of any magic resistance that they may have, which is also really cool, and enables magical attacks to everyone in the army. That's always nice to have. Now, Redline is one of the best in the game. Not only how it organizes units, but on what it also buffs them. For instance, you have every orc unit here. You have every cavalry unit here. You have every goblin unit here. So a night goblin. So basically, it organizes really well so that you can have different compositions, variety, and of course, that always enhances how much your playthrough is, because you have a lot of variety, a lot of options. Now, Blue Line does have the reduced upkeep here, but it doesn't have any replenishment. That's one of the main issues for the orcs, actually, for the Greenskins. They do have a lot to gain income, you know, from loot, from raiding, from sacking settlements, so that's definitely something good to have. But for the most part, I would always get like maybe a black orc or a hag to get replenishment overall, because certainly you're gonna need that. So I'm gonna show you here. So of course, for instance, if you get a hag, it's on tier 3. She's the one that can replenish troops. But this dude here, even though it doesn't show, he does have a buff to orc units to get some replenishment, which is always cool, always nice to have in any army. So here we have the red line skills for and the units affected. Now, because there's a division between the goblins and the orc units, it's actually really easy to come up with varied unit compositions without spending too many red line skills. Now, Wurrzag heavily focuses on savage orcs, but he gives something to the creatures as well. So, of course, there's some armies including savage orcs, and some variety possibilities are showcased here, either with some artillery or with some monsters. Nothing wrong with you getting even more savage orcs if you wish, but for the most part you can use these without spending too many red line skill points on the red line, which is always excellent. We then have some specific armies, for instance, considering the Goblin Great Shaman or Night Goblin War Boss. This is mostly to have cheaper armies, you know, they're perfect as sweeper armies to ensure that you get some quick armies that you can come up with. They are cheap and you can defend with these guys particularly, or just go and fight minor enemies instead of having to send always your tough units there. Now, finally, let's get some standardized armies. I've shown this many times. Of course, you can replace anything here with savage orcs at your at your will if you choose, but for the most part nothing wrong with going with some black orcs, with some big guns for anti-large basically, or just more black orcs. It's fine. I just include these guys because I like to have a couple of them, or just some straight up ambush style army. You know, this is really great to go against any ambush. Notice this yet the number of red light skins that you always require. Even when you get a lot of variety in the armies, you don't really need too many points, which is always excellent. It allows you to have some variety. That's why I don't show too many army compositions, just so that you can get your own army compositions and have fun with it. Always remember as well the scrap mechanics. They can change how the army composition goes, and of course it enables you to get even more variety that way. One more note, what I recommend in terms of heroes and even lords, it's really up to you, but I always recommend, as always, one caster hero, one melee hero as well, just to be sure that you have someone to, you know, protect your caster, and that of course you can use some of the magic. So Wurrzag is a decent change from other Greenskins, not only from his starting position and enemies of course, but also for his focuses on the savage orcs. If you actually have a Greenskins experience with tons of damage in the front line, he's definitely a great choice, and especially just starting out on the bad lines, he's so thematic, it's so great. He does have a somewhat difficult starting position, but you have all the tools available for the most part. I would focus on keeping an eye on diplomacy, realizing who is getting a front, you know, if the dwarves are getting ahead, if the ogres are getting ahead here, or if they're getting defeated, etc. That sort of idea, it's always what you should keep an eye, and also realizing who is liking you because you're at war with someone. I'm at war with Scarbred here. Who is enjoying that? Who likes me because I'm at war with them? Try to get a few friends on the over front with that always in mind. So your army always consists of great damage dealing infantry, good missiles and artillery, great monsters and single entities, good chariots, cheap units in all categories, lacks anti-large halberd infantry. You do have some anti-large, but it's not a halberd infantry. It doesn't have armor piercing, and you do have average cavalry. So replenishment is great, especially because of the climate and the regions that you're going for the most part to be focusing on earlier on. Only much later in a world map domination would you start feeling the effects, especially if you go into the north, but for the most part you won't notice the effects of climate until much later, which is always excellent in those sort of campaigns. Now, time to party with the dancing Wurrzag, the great green prophet.